Now it's about to drop, the Genshin hype train's at its next major stop, new and returning players are flooding in just in time to Strongbox flop. Greetings everyone, Butterfur is back. For the Dawn of Natlan, I've prepared some possibly refreshing takes on the state of the meta in Genshin Impact, and how you should consider approaching it for yourself if you care about it. I have some food for thought, and some words of caution and advice for those joining and rejoining the game now and are interested in setting up their accounts for success against difficult content by following the meta. By the way, apologies for the unannounced journey to buy milk for the past few months. I pledge not to repeat that. I have plenty of interesting content planned for this channel in the near and far future. So, feel free to harass me on Discord if I randomly vanish again. If you enjoy Genshin discussion content or are interested in some of the most applicable, concise guides on YouTube for your favorite characters and teams, please like and subscribe. You'll probably like it here. Alright, let's get into dissecting the Genshin meta. So, what do you reckon the Genshin meta actually is? I'll give you a straight answer. It's whatever the fuck you want it to be, literally. Genshin is a single player PvE game, which means that what you want out of your account is and will always be the sole decider of what's optimal for it. This is pretty self-explanatory for players who care only about, say, the exploration, the storyline, or playing with one hand while jacking it to their waifus. But above and beyond that, even if we limit discussion to just optimal strategies for full clearing floor 12 of the Abyss or beating other similarly difficult content, people value and in turn teach each other to value very different things in deciding what meta actually is. To different ideologies, the meta could refer to whatever strategies some feel can clear the difficult content in the most consistent or comfortable manner. To others, it could refer to teams that spit out the biggest number on a spreadsheet, calculated according to their assumptions, of course. Or, for some more whack examples that were and still are unfortunately quite popular, many people are obsessed with things that they insist require the least amount of resin investment to, quote, just barely clear the content under the conveniently glossed over assumption that everyone somehow automatically has a very specific selection of characters with certain constellations the instant they download the fucking game. Another good one is of course the Cian-inspired speedrun grind set, rooted in a playstyle of resetting for hours on end per Abyss chamber, booking until you actually become a Fable Scholar, all while operating under a comedically arbitrary cost system that disregards a whole host of factors other than just the number of 5 stars on a team. I'm sidetracking at this point, but this particular hardcore lens of viewing the meta incubated the greatest meta take that I've probably ever heard, after the Xingqiu fiasco of course, and I'm paraphrasing. My character is better than your character because at exactly Constellation 2 with a stack team of only Constellation's 4-star supports, my character has a higher probability of bursting the perpetual mechanical array on floor 12 down to its second phase before the timer takes down to exactly 947 than your character does. What the fuck am I even saying? Anyway, no shade to anyone, I just found that shit mad funny. Alright, just to clarify, there's nothing ultimately wrong with any of these perspectives that I just listed. You're free to think what you think and free to promote what you promote. My point is, the meta is impossible to define in a manner that's applicable to everyone, and unfortunately, we egotistical content creators, who for the life of us couldn't give two fucks about any perspective other than our own, often fail to convey that. As a result, it just ends up being whoever has the biggest platform and the biggest voice that gets to indoctrinate the whole community into worshipping whatever random bullshit that they like and isn't really helpful to most people. Anyway, what I wanted to say was that while I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a sweaty hardcore meta player, I fundamentally detest what most people believe playing according to the meta actually has to entail. So, I came up with my own agenda for how to follow the meta, which I'm about to sell to you right now, and you're gonna fucking love it. Alright, buckle up boys, let me discuss with you exactly why my method of understanding and approaching the meta is superior, and explain why many of the current popular notions of how to play according to the meta are cringe and better left ignored. It's gonna be a fun ride. Power creep, power creep, power creep. That's the first concept we must acknowledge before further continuing with our discussion. Every meta player loves the idea of using the best DPS or the best team in the game. And of course, different people can have different opinions on what this specific best something is, whether they care more about quality of life, sheet DPS, or a combination of the two and how everything translates in-game. However, what many people don't realize and refuse to acknowledge is that this best character, or best team, changes very often. Every once in a while, we get a new DPS or something of the sort that raises every bar in the game in terms of both damage and quality of life. And when that happens, people either immediately move on to bat chest the shiny new toy, or militantly argue, usually to no avail, why this new thing is not better than what came last. Remember when people defended the 30k DPS Ganyu Venti freeze team to the grave years after it was good because quadratic scaling and AoE? We've seen these pointless arguments multiple times in the past, and we're gonna see it again in due time. If, I don't know, say the Pyro Archon exclusively buffed attack scaling units and to a ludicrous degree, and there ends up being multiple new carries that do literally double the damage of someone like Neuvillette as a result of that, I guarantee you, there will still be people claiming that Neuvillette is by far the best character in the game, purely because his playstyle is, quote, fundamentally broken. I'm not saying that this is gonna happen, and to this extreme of an extent, but you know what I mean. For every seemingly broken something that gets introduced, a better, more broken thing is always around the corner. Genshin is a gacha game. This will never change. There's no point in trying to fight or deny it. And as a low spender or free-to-play player who cares about the meta, you don't need me to tell you why you can't keep up with this if this is what following the meta means to you. Pulling every new broken character and sometimes a whole team around them regularly just isn't that plausible. Which is why I'm here to tell you that you don't need to think like this to be a meta player. As I alluded to earlier, Genshin is an excellently and beautifully open-ended game. Therefore, I urge you to stop obsessing over which character or archetype is technically the current best altogether. This is because, get this, due to how damage scaling works in Genshin, whatever you vertically invest into will, and always will be better than what's stronger at a baseline. Alright, listen closely now. The Genshin meta that I want you to pursue is to select units that you genuinely enjoy from a playstyle, aesthetic, or even lore perspective, then min-maxing their gearing, team building, and gameplay to make those particular units and teams that you like the strongest they can possibly be. For example, if you don't give a fuck about Neuvillette, then don't get him. Even if there's arguably no one all-around better than him at equal investment at the current moment. Why does that matter? I got my Xiao team with a C6 Farzan and a C2 Xianyun instead. Getting a C0 Neuvillette without all his good supports ain't gonna be an improvement over what I already have and enjoy playing. But if you really like Neuvillette and his big come beam playstyle, then get him. Even if you already have two established teams. You can take your sweet time building a great team around him over time along with your other favorites. Nurturing your characters and teams is not a time-limited event. Oh, and this should be obvious, but I don't mean that you should vertically invest into two teams forever until everybody is literally C6R5 a decade later. That's stupid. I trust you to be the judge of how far you want to vertically invest into your character or your team. But what I do highly recommend is that you at bare minimum collect all the units required to form your chosen character's premium team. This means doing things like getting Xianyun and C6 Farzan for Xiao, Nahida for Alhaitham and Nilou, and pulling Farina for, well, literally everyone. Hoyoverse knows what characters they want to be played together, even if a dedicated support isn't massively better than an alternative at a glance. The differences in quality of life and damage after the slightest bit of vertical investment are usually night and day. Okay, this is a good time to mention the whole low investment shit isn't worth considering anymore. This is because the difficulty and the DPS checks required to full clear the Spiral Abyss of today are on a fundamentally different level than what it was like 2 years ago when this whole low investment cult started. Nowadays, there is no reliable way to get 36 stars or do something of that kind by piecing together free characters and cope artifacts. No, your C0 Xingqiu DMC Hyperbloom team, if you can even call it that, isn't gonna clear 4 waves of rune enemies and 2 consecrated beasts in 90 seconds. You need real teams to clear, simple as that. And since that is the case, I urge you to stop thinking about how you can force a clear early on without farming or pulling anything. Just build the characters that you've chosen and that you like until they can clear. Learn their optimal builds and teams, and save to pull for their optimal teammates. Learn which artifacts you don't necessarily need to farm and can strongbox, and which talents you don't necessarily need to level right away. And that is the low investment meta you should actually worry about. Also, people are not going to stop playing the game the instant they barely have the investment to clear. I don't get why this was ever an obsession or goal to begin with. Lastly, on this point, people aren't stupid. It's not anybody's place to be their savior from poor financial decisions. Someone who gets their first clear with their favorite units isn't gonna feed Hoyoverse any more money than someone you convinced to do it with Hyperbloom and Xiangling. Moving on. Alright, last note. If you like speedrunning, which I do as well, you speedrun with the characters and teams that you like and invested into, plain and simple. You do not pull a new DPS character and a whole ass team around them just because that character clears 5 seconds faster than your current character at 4 cost. That's deranged behavior. Actually, please disregard the whole cost system altogether. Don't hesitate to pull great supports for your units just because they're 5 stars. Skipping Xian Yun for your Xiao team just because Xiangling saves a gold is actually insane. All in all, don't pull playstyle defining characters like on-field DPSs and such purely because they're supposedly OP. Pull them because their gameplay is sick or because they're hot or something. The joy in Genshin, in my opinion, comes from playing the characters you love and making a strong meta team around them. When you invest into what you enjoy, you're a lot more likely to have a fun time engaging difficult content. Alright, remember, everything I said today is simply a suggestion from me, formed from years of playing the game and watching others do the same. You do whatever you want and say whatever you want. I just think my way of playing the game and approaching the meta is very likely for new players and returning players alike to have a healthy account and an enjoyable time playing Genshin Impact. Alright, that's all I have for you. Like and subscribe to support my work. Butterfur out. See ya.